parts of Chicago's South Side, children as young as 5 or 6 are sometimes caught in the gunfire. High schoolers, more likely to have direct exposure to this violence, are recruited into a special program at St. Sabina.
We have an older group here at the Arc of St. Sabina called the B.R.A.V.E Youth Leaders.
B.R.A.V.E stands for Bold Resistance Against Violence Everywhere.
They really close with each other. And the big success story I would say is that they're from different high schools, different neighborhoods, and one thing they have in common is that they want to promote peace.
Good evening. Welcome to B.R.A.V.E Youth Live. I am Anthony Lovelace, and this is my friend Mariah Mack. We represent the B.R.A.V.E Youth Leaders. We are a violence prevention group based in Chicago, and our main goal is to prevent any types of violence from reaching our communities. And today, our first topic will be police shootings and community relations. So, Mariah, my first question is, what is the first step the police need to do to mend the relationship with the community?
Well, I believe the police should get proper training when dealing with the communities that they're in. I know for a fact that according to Chicago Tribune that police officers just in December, only 1 out of 5 of them even knew how to use tasers. But like now they're learning, recently as of May 31st, they said that every police officer now has been taught how to use a taser, and I believe that just getting that proper training on it.
Well, I personally believe that it's not enough to just train an officer how to use a taser or to properly work a body camera. I believe that as a society, we have to be able to train the mentalities or switch the mentalities of racist police officers, because a racist police officer is still going to be a racist. He's just going to be a racist with a taser. Or a scared police officer of usually black people are scared of police and vice versa. So a police officer who's scared of a black person is still going to be scared of a black person. He's just going to have a body camera or a taser. So I definitely believe that being able to change the hearts and minds of certain people, will be able we'll have a better relationship with them as a community. Another example is, according to the Chicago Tribune, 52% of all police officers are white in Chicago, and only 23% of them are black, and 22% of them are Hispanic. I believe that a great way to help the community relations is to have police that reflect the community, serve that community. So if you have more black people in a neighborhood, maybe if you have more black people serving that community, it would be better, because a lot of white people who, for example, if a white cop lived in Mount Greenwood or Beverly, he doesn't really relate to the problems of Auburn, Gresham, or Inglewood or Roseland. He's just going to, after his shift, leave and go back to Mount Greenwood or Beverly in his home. So my next question to you is, how can we destroy the stereotype of police and black? How can we destroy the stereotype of police in the black community that we may have towards each other?
I believe that we can destroy this stereotype by, when we have something to say, everyone speaks up and speaks out about it. Don't just keep letting it happen. Keep letting a police officer kill. Keep letting someone in the black community kill, or everybody needs to say something when someone's getting hurt.
All right, I definitely agree. I believe though that we as a people have to be able to tell when it's good and bad in every situation, or in every person, or every group. So to the police officer, or to the group of people who think all black kids are thugs, or to the black community who thinks all police officers are racist and ignorant, we have to be able to adjust to each other and learn to live with one another, because neither one of us are going away anytime soon. Right. The police will never go away, and the community will never go away. So as a society, we have to learn that, okay, sure, it's a minority of bad cops, and it's a minority of bad black people or bad Hispanic people, but we have to learn to outline the good and get rid of the negative stereotype that perpetuates the community of, oh, he's a thug or he's a bad cop. That, to me, is just ridiculous, and that's a ridiculous notion that everybody thinks everybody's bad, because no one's going to think anyone's good. And that means we'll be able to, and after we do that, we'll be able to gain trust. Then maybe instead of handling situations ourselves as young black men and women, we can finally go to the police, so we can finally trust the police officer to handle certain situations.
Right. I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, what do you think us as a community can do to start mending the relationship with the police officer?
Well, I believe that as a community, and I think I said this earlier, that we have to be able to trust. Like, trust is a thing that, like, you just step out on. Trust isn't going to always be there right in front of you. We have to be able to trust not only just the police, but ourselves. We have to be able to stand up just for ourselves first before we. That's just like having a home, and you're not cleaning the home, but you expect somebody else to come in and clean the home. Like, that's not going to happen. You have to be able to say, like, this is my house, this is my block. I want to take charge of my house, my block, and then I'm going to trust other people to do their jobs and serve and protect.
That's like when we, as Brave youth leaders, when we go out and do the peace marches with Father Mike
Right.
on Fridays.
Right.
And also, us as Brave youth leaders, we inform people in the neighborhood about like issues going on. So we pass out flyers about how they should act or respond when stopped by the police officers.
Right. Another fact about the Chicago Police Department is that we have, as of 2011, I believe, according to the Chicago Tribune, we have 12,000 employees. That's through the Chicago Police Department, and that's the third largest in the nation. So with a community of police officers that's that big, and the big, huge community of Chicago, at least the south and west sides of Chicago, we have to be able to not only interact with one another, but like really love one another as brothers and sisters, because at the end of the day, most of our problems are their problems too. For those officers who live in Auburn Gresham, who live in Inglewood and Roseland, they have the same problems we do. So we have to learn how to just, like I said, trust and be able to build that foundation. And will it take a day? Will it be happening tomorrow? No. So it's a process, and we'll have some rocky bumps in the process, but eventually we'll get to that point.
Yes.
And we will be wrapping up soon. One last question. What have you had any bad experiences with the police? Really quickly.
Me?
Yes.
Personally, I haven't had any bad experiences. No. Have you?
No, I'm fortunate not to. As we wrap up, our next topic will be Chicago's violence and the double standard with different things. So a black on black crime compared to police crime and how we handle that as a community. And I believe Jalea and Trayvon will handle that topic. So stay tuned, and there's way more to come.
But the reality is, 1,163 individuals have been shot in Chicago since January 1st. Now somebody shout, that's unacceptable! Say it one more time, that's unacceptable! Chicago's peace is our Selma! We can't afford to be just nostalgic about what happened 50 years ago. Rather, we have to become like them. And we have to cross the bridge of our day. Brothers and sisters, the Edmund Pettus Bridge of our day is violence in the city of Chicago.
Hello, and we are back with the B.R.A.V.E live television show. And we have a caller. Caller?
Yes, good evening. I'm a first-time caller, and the first two young people that were up there were great, and I know that you're going to be the same. Great show. But what I wanted to know was, the gentleman asked the young lady, has she ever had any problems with the police? And she said no, as well as him. He said no also. The question should have been is, have you had trouble with all the gangbangers that are out there that you got across the street, worried about getting shot? You know, it works both ways. I grew up years in these grounds, 68 years old. I grew up in a neighborhood that was 80% Polish, 20% Mexican. And you know, as long as you don't bother anybody, hello, you know, that's all you have to do. But now, with all these guns and stuff, and you can blame the Republicans.
Well, I couldn't really hear what you were saying, but I think you were just referring to how people are being interacted by police and how some people don't have bad experience. But I mean, they didn't have bad experiences, but it's other people that do, and I know people that have as well. We have another call.
Hi. I heard you all mention black on black violence a couple of times. Do you guys think that there's a such thing as a white on white violence?
Yes.
Yeah, there's white on white crime just as well as black on black crime. And what we were about to get into with our segment was basically going to be the double standard of black on black crime versus the other crime that goes on in the city is mass shootings in our nation, mass shootings and police shootings. And my first question to you, Jaleel, was do you feel there's a double standard with media coverage and public response when it comes to police mass shootings versus Chicago's day-to-day shootings?
Yes, because the media only shows the bad thing about, it only shows the trending things about gun violence, stuff like that. But I feel that the media only shows day-to-day violence.
I mean, basically what she's saying, I understand, is that when the media it portrays the police shootings and the mass shootings as such a bigger issue than our day-to-day shooting. Like, it's, you have a police shooting or anything like that and it'll be on the news for days or anything or weeks and they'll still be talking about it. But when a day-to-day shooting happens in Chicago, very few people really even talk about it for very long. And my next question, what do you feel is the difference in media coverage? Why do you think there is a difference in media coverage for black on black crime versus the police shootings and mass shootings?
I feel that, like I said, like the media only shows what they want to show, but people only show like what happens today. Oh Lord.
You good? I mean,
how do you feel about it? Like,
well, I feel that the real difference in between media coverage and the public reaction is that people have grown so accustomed to the day-to-day shootings in Chicago that they don't even get angered by it anymore. For the most part, people just, a little kid got shot around the corner, but that's Chicago, it doesn't matter. But when a police kills someone, everyone gets so crazily upset and marches and everything. But I feel that we need to give the same respect to day-to-day shootings as we would a police shooting or a mass shooting or anything. We should be just in big as numbers. A child gets shot so often in Chicago and we think it's nothing, but yet when a police shoots anyone, we want to go all crazy. But we need to be on ourselves just as much as we are on them. And my last question is, what do you think is the solution to Chicago's gun violence?
The people in the community have to stand up for each other. Like, they can't just stand up for when a white person shoot a black man. You have to stand up for all lives, because at the end of the day, what if it happens to you? So you have to, stand up for all.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like with the problems in Chicago's gun violence, I feel like there's so many different reasons for Chicago's gun violence. Like, there's so many different things that tie into the problems, why I think there's multiple solutions. Like, one of the problems is not only our education system, which is failing a lot of our students, where you have many schools on the south side and west side of Chicago that don't really get books, but most of them don't have books, and the books that they do have are pretty old. As to, like, I had books in grammar school that were from 1990 and everything, but people schools on the other side, like north side and all of them, they get better books than us and more funding and everything, while they're already doing pretty well in itself. And I think another problem is that our snitch code that many people in many communities live by is that you'll see something but no one tends to ever say anything. And actually, based off the snitch code, because no one is telling anyone anything about a crime if they saw anything, 74% of murders in Chicago are actually unsolved. And that's based off DNAinfo.com. So if no one's telling the police or anybody that someone's, I saw such and such do this, there's never going to be anyone convicted for a crime. And if no one's convicted for a crime, I'm going to think, I killed somebody, that's cool, I got away with it the first time, I'm going to just keep doing it. And one more problem is our lack of resources. There's so many, like, with our group in itself, the B.R.A.V.E Youth Leaders, we actually got our funding cut. We were very close to disbanding, and it was because the governor, Bruce Rowley, he cut all funding for violence prevention programs. So he cut St. Sabina, every other organization that tries to make a change in the community, he cut all their funding. And I don't think you can expect to have any solution to the violence unless you give funding to those organizations that need it. And we have a caller.
I was calling from Chicago. I just want to know, I know everybody always talking about the unsolved cases in Chicago. Is the detectives really working to solve the cases? Because they have cameras all around Chicago. So I'm not understanding why the cases remain unsolved. Do the detectives even care? Or is they understaffed? Or what's really going on? Because it's too many cases unsolved, so it's no excuse for that. If it was a police officer being shot, they would get it solved. So why they won't do the same thing for the black-on-black crime?
That's completely true. And that's, I mean, actually with the cameras out, when we talked to the police chief, my mother asked the same question. She talked to police chief, and basically what they're saying, we don't have enough people to even look at those cameras. So basically, they're not even checking them. They're not trying to see if anyone's who did the crime or anything like that. They're not even looking into it. And with the unsolved cases, no. It was many times people came up to my mother with evidence on my brother's case, which is actually still unsolved, and the detective never followed up with anything that she gave them. So actually, our unsolved cases, although they say they have detectives on the case, they really aren't doing much about it. But we are about to wrap up, and the next segment of the B.R.A.V.E Live show will be the Tale of Two Cities with Asante Hamilton and Jessica. We will get back to you in a minute. We're going to show a little bit of our film and a little bit more of what we do.
You got to the point where the violence has become such irregularity that it's part of growing up. So, you know, soldiers that come back from war zones with post-traumatic stress, well, you have young people and families who live in war zones and have post-traumatic stress, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's dealing with it. We're in danger of losing a generation to cemeteries, a generation to prison, a generation to being emotionally damaged. It's destroying a generation.
All right. Hello, we are back today. My name is Asante Hamilton, and this is
Jessica Jones.
Our segment right now is the Tale of Two Cities. So Jessica, do you feel like Chicago is divided?
Yes, I do feel that Chicago is divided into two cities because personally I live on the south side, and the things that I see on the south side, I can't find that anywhere else in the city. I feel that like downtown and the north side and all those other parts of the city have more resources, you know, like health centers or anything, more resources and more funding towards them. While on the south side, it's hard to get anything, and they wonder why we're always on the streets and it's an unhealthy city is because we have no healthy resources, we have no closed gyms, we have none of those things. So I feel like it is divided by that, you know, economically and, you know, other stuff like that.
Yes, I agree with you. Chicago to me is divided by public safety and police presence, and then it's divided by economic development distribution. Right now, Lollapalooza, we got the Taste of Chicago, we got the NFL Draft, and all these things downtown, any other event that goes on downtown, they get bunches and bunches of police officers to security, but then like on a regular day, we don't have these same police officers in those numbers on the south side, and the east side, and the west side, and then we have our youth, and we have everybody else fearing for their lives on the south, east, and west, because we don't have that same security as they would downtown. So how do you feel about the public safety and the police of the presence?
I feel like downtown they have more public police safety because it's not the same, I would say, percentage of minorities downtown as there is of any other race, you know. And on the south side, there's so much violence and there's so much craziness that it's like the cops, they're there to protect us as they should do, but at the same time is that they have, you know, cops on every corner downtown, but when it comes to on the south side of Chicago, it's just a cop car going down one street all the time. But on every corner of downtown, every time I walk somewhere, there's a cop right there, a cop down there, and especially at any time of the day, it's not even at night or the afternoon, they're always protected. And I feel like that's unfair to the people that live on the other sides of the city. So.
And about police officers, there is police saturation. There's supposed to be a certain amount of police officers in high crime rate neighborhoods. So how do you feel as though, with that being in mind, Do you feel like the city is standing up to that point where they have a certain amount of police officers in these high crime rate neighborhoods? Do you feel as though they are doing that?
Honestly, I feel like they are in a way, but they are at the same time, because it's so many unsolved crimes in the city of Chicago on the south side, and we're supposed to have all this police protection, but at the same time there's many cold cases, and there's many people who don't even hear about young kids getting shot down the street. So I don't understand why, you know, in other parts of the city there's so much police protection, but we don't have enough for our black children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just like Trevon was saying earlier, it's all about the resources and the amount that we can get a hold to. The lack of resources is only resolved in a high crime rate. So just thinking about that, like, how do you feel about the resources and economic development on the lower sides, like south side, west side, east side, compared to downtown when they spend millions and millions of dollars each day just on the development downtown?
I'm glad you brought that up, because this past week, TIF proposed for New South Loop Elementary School. They gave them $11 million in TIF. And that's crazy, because they did it because there were a lot of students in the school. But when it's a lot of students in other schools on the south side and the other side of the city, they want to close them down. And on top of that, the schools don't have books, they don't have computers, and they don't have the resources they need to get the education they need. And on top of that, I feel that the most of the cops, you know, and everybody that comes to our community, they don't live in our community, so they don't know what we need. I feel like they need to listen about what we need in the community, because we don't have the resources that these other people have, you know.
All right, we have a caller.
Oh. Hello?
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. I just wanted to say that it is a tale of two cities. I'm 68 years old, and it wasn't a tale of two cities back then. But now it is, because there are people that have worked all their lives, gone to the service, did everything they're supposed to do. And you have people that never worked a day in their lives, and they want everything. Now, why is that? That's the tale of two cities. You have people that work, and they'll share it with everyone, and you have people.
I couldn't really hear you, but it sounded like you agree with us about the tale of two cities and how some people actually see it as though, but then others don't. So I actually agree with that. I feel as though there are some people out here that actually see it as two, but then some people down here that only see it as one, and they get mind wrapped about the whole, you know, we are all good in Chicago, but in reality we are not.
Time to wrap it up.
I just want to talk about, you know, B.R.A.V.E for a minute. We meet at the Arkansas Sabine on 78 South Racine every Tuesday and Thursday at 4:30 to 6:30. If you want to come and join and talk to us, we have plenty of representatives. There's a number on the screen you could call. And then also we'll be attending the Terrell Bosley Association 3-on-3 basketball tournament August 12th. The registration begins at 12 o'clock and it begins at 12:30. There will be free food and prizes. Games. We got do you want to say anything before we close?
I would just like to say that I feel that people need to listen to people that live in the community about the resources that we want, and also we need to start coming together as a community to make a stand against that, because if we're not telling them what we want and what we need, how are we going to get it?
I understand, I agree, and I also want to make a correction. The date is August 6th and not August 12th. And thank you.
I got like 4 minutes.
We come with humble spirits, but most of all, God, we come with anger in our hearts. We come with motivation, demanding